It's great to be here. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I'm Neil Rahilly. I'm the VP of Product at Mixpanel, and I'm here with Akio Bandle, who is the Senior Product Manager at ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter leads mobile there, and has 8 years of mobile product management experience. For that was at Japanese gaming company called DNA, and was acquisition analyst at SeatGeek. And so today we wanted to go over the sort of trials and tribulations of being a mobile product manager specifically, and hope to just get into some stories with Akio, some of the hard-won lessons that he has, and also take some questions from people in chat. So if you have questions, throw them in chat, and we'll try to get to them. Cool. So Akio, why don't we start off with just how's mobile product management different from other forms?
Yeah, totally. It's actually it's a really product managers actually love talking about kind of the uniqueness of being a mobile PM. And like, if we just zoom out for a moment and we just think about it, like it's a different product, it's a different platform, right? You're actually publishing this product through another platform, whether it's Google Play or iTunes. Oftentimes you're dealing with a unique set of technologies, right? Especially if, let's say, your apps are native. And so there are challenges there as well, especially when when you're working in a multi-platform company, and there's constant evolutions happening with APIs and the web product. You're always playing catch up in a way, or making sure that your needs for the apps are being met or thought about, especially if there's like infrastructure upgrades being made. There's discoverability issues, right? Just like building out an app is hard in and of itself. Getting it discovered organically can be very difficult. So it's just it's interesting. And then there's also the challenge of like, how do you structure mobile product? Like, do you have just one mobile product manager who kind of oversees the whole product by itself? Sometimes that's a strange fit when you're working with web product managers who own like a specific slice of the web experience. Or do you have all the product managers who kind of are feature focused, focus on those features when they're building it for the apps? Which again, they're bringing their own specialization of the feature to the app, but then you don't have that gatekeeper making sure that all the prioritizations and all the features work well for that mobile product. So it's just a whole set of unique circumstances being a mobile PM, and it's definitely an interesting challenge.
And how's that structured at ZipRecruiter?
So we have the first example that I brought up, where a lot of our PMs are feature focused, but I am kind of like the one mobile PM. I'm kind of the gatekeeper. And so what I do is, oftentimes, and we'll dig into this a little bit later as well, but we employ oftentimes a fast follow approach when it comes to the apps, where like we'll test things on web, validate an idea or feature, and then we'll kind of apply those learnings to the apps. And I will work very closely with the product manager who kind of initially kind of built out that feature to make sure that it's properly being implemented on mobile. But the interesting thing is, like, I also kind of like own the product as a whole. Like I work with, I communicate with like the Apple business development, like the app publishers, I work with marketing. I kind of oversee the app as a whole, which is different from what the other product managers who are more specialized with like specific slices of the user experience.
So let's get into like the employer app at ZipRecruiter, and So can you tell me a bit about, what were the goals? What was the impetus for the project, and sort of how it went, and some of the things you learned along the way?
Totally. So just quick background. The mobile team is actually quite sizable, given that we're kind of still a startup. We have 3 iOS developers, 3 Android, 2 API. These are all dedicated to mobile. Dev manager. We have 2 designers, and the product that we've been, that we launched and we've been maintaining over the past few years has been a job seeker product, right? ZipRecruiter is a 2-sided marketplace where you have employers who basically pay us to keep their jobs posted, and then we have our own job board, free product for job seekers to apply to jobs, and that has been kind of our sole focus on mobile for the past few years. It is a big part of our business now. It makes up, almost a quarter of all kind of job seeker activity on our platform. But we're ambitious. We wanted to build, see if we could also build out an employer mobile product. It's interesting because the job seeker side is a B2C, product, and then on the employer side it's actually B2B. And so I think organizationally there was a lot of interest in can we create another touch point to kind of engage our employer customers, aka notify them when they receive a high quality candidate through push notifications. Use the app as a way to encourage them to give us more signals of how they think about a candidate, whether give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And then finally, there was interest in can we actually acquire new customers through the app? If we promote the app through Facebook and potentially drive signups that way. Unfortunately, the level of investment it took to get those learnings was very high. Building a quality app from scratch requires a lot of work and time and patience. And it was tough. We really struggled to scale the app in terms of downloads. We promoted the app in what we call our applicant tracking system, which is basically the portal in which employers can see their candidates and rate them. We basically built a mobile version of that to start with, our MVP. And it was tough to get people to download the app. We were promoting it in different places, and I think fundamentally there was just not a product market fit there. A lot of our customers are small mid-sized business owners who aren't getting hundreds of candidates a day and necessarily need a mobile product for them to manage their candidates on the go. What we ended up finding was that we had a group of hardcore users that were more in the mid-tier or enterprise level, and they were just having to manage a lot more candidates. So it was a useful power user product in a way, but it didn't necessarily, it wasn't a need. We weren't fulfilling a need for the wider customer base at ZipRecruiter. Another huge learning was that Facebook acquisition for B2B was very expensive. And so, acquiring new customers through mobile was just not efficient for us. And then the third thing was that Apple they just laid the hammer on us one day, and we're every product or feature on web that you're monetizing needs to be in the employer app as well, and needs to use iTunes billing in order to, so that they can get a cut of the revenue, or else you can no longer update the app anymore. And that was kind of the final nail in the coffin.
Wow.
Because
didn't realize they would do something like that.
It's they we have a Apple has done a lot of great things for us. They've done a lot of promotions of the apps. We get a lot of traffic from Apple, and they're very communicative with us. We have a great rep there who communicates, listens to our concerns and communicates with us. But sometimes they just arbitrarily will lay down the law for some strategic reason.
Yeah.
And you know, it's iTunes billing is hard. Like when you have your own billing system, you have customers who already have all their credit card information saved, and now you're asking them to like use whatever credit card is being stored in their iTunes account, and then you're giving away 30% of your revenue. It just like, I think one of the big learnings to me was that like, yes, you can make B2B work, but it's really hard. Make sure that you have good product market fit and you have a good goal in mind. You know, we kind of like built an app because we felt like there needed to be a mobile product in hindsight, more than like really be like validating that like we had a clear kind of goal and vision in mind, and then executed towards that.
Yeah, I think, you know, it's interesting listening to that, because we had we have a mobile app for Mixpanel, and it's sort of similar in some ways. And I think it's probably particularly dangerous in B2B, where some people are on the go at work and there's like a specific reason that you would want it to be mobile. But a lot of people at work are sitting at their desk and sitting at a computer already, in which case it's like really not a value add in a lot of cases, and or at least not as much as a lot of other investments that you could make. And
what was the incentive to build it in the first place?
Well, I think the idea was that you know, could carry the, you know, first we did do some design around mobile being something different from the web. It wasn't just kind of like, okay, let's just copy this thing into this new platform. And the idea was, okay, for your top KPIs, if you've made like a dashboard, then being able to access those on the go, if you're in like a meeting or something else and you want to like reference something, that'd be useful. And then also we could alert based on, you know, anomalous changes in your metrics, and that also could come through as a push notification and then take you into the app to see like, oh, something's going on with conversion rate on our sign up funnel or something like that. And it was kind of similar. You know, we had some success and some users that really liked it, but it wasn't like a runaway big game changer. And also kind of similar experience in terms of like mobile is a really big investment and it's expensive, and to do it right, you need a dedicated team, and you know, app development is making it good, making it really native, you know, good mobile experience is it's a huge undertaking. So yeah, I think you know, it's interesting as well, as sort of you're saying on the sort of having a clear goal. If I look back on it and I just think of all the different signals that we have from the user base, whether it's in like feedback coming in or churn reasons or win-loss reasons or support tickets or anything else, and there wasn't like rampant demand for mobile, and there wasn't even other types of problems or things customers were asking for that revealed like a problem that mobile was really going to solve. I think there was an element of it too, of just like our own feeling of like, hey, like more and more of the world is mobile first, we should go mobile. You know, it's not always that simple.
It's interesting because like when I go to conferences, or when we used to have like in-person conferences, you know, I would run into a lot of people who were actually not from the mobile world. They were people from who were successful in other industries like real estate, and they're at this conference because they paid some third-party developer to build them an app, and they're trying to make that successful. And oftentimes when I'm working through kind of what they're doing, my first question is like, why app? You know, like you probably could have built this and validated your product idea on web a lot more efficiently and effectively. But I think that there is a kind of a glimmer to like mobile and having an app that is a strong pull for a lot of people. You know, for a while, I don't get this as much anymore, but for a while when I told people I was in mobile, like people would throw me their first app idea, you know?
Yeah. I totally. I think that, even for us, like if I look back on it, I'd say there is obviously everyone to some degree does work on the go. And at least for something like Mixpanel, probably ZipRecruiter would be similar. If you get notified through Slack or email or something you like do use on your phone all the time, it's really great if the link is good on mobile, that the mobile web version of stuff is good. So you can see what you need to see from your phone. I think, it's a huge leap to like a full native experience. So wait, there's some questions here. I think that are related. So going back to the employer app, there's a question here. Did you go through any processes to help validate product market fit before initiating that product? So sort of saying to some degree, no, but like what did you guys do?
That's a great question. Clearly not enough.
Yeah. Classic.
Yes. We did some polling, but it's always dangerous, polls. If you, people will be like, if you, when I was told that Mixpanel was launching an app, like my first reaction was like, oh, cool. Like, I can't wait to get my hands on it and use it. And then like a year later, I like still didn't install it, right? Because it just wasn't an immediate, like, I didn't connect the need for it. And I think that's the same potential risk. Like, don't ask like leading questions if you're asking users if they'd be interested in an app. One thing I wish we did, and this is more in line with ZipRecruiter culture, where we're generally very lean, and we do a lot of smoke testing, and we do a lot of, things of that nature, would have been to maybe just like fake advertise, an employer app on the ATS, and then just see how many people would click on it, and then create some model of like, what percentage of our user base would end up having or using a mobile app. Just modeling that out a little bit better, I think, in hindsight, I think would have been a good idea, because it almost doesn't, it matters less what's in the app than like what you're actually trying to sell to the user, and then see like what value propositions are actually most interesting to get that person to download. Because the biggest source of friction with mobile is the fact that you're landing on an app store page, then you're clicking install, you're waiting for the app to download, and then you have to launch the app, So there's a lot of steps to get there.
Yeah, at the same time, we had this, and I'm sure you had it as well, is that you have your entire user base that's using the website, and you can just put the like download the app from the app store, right in the web product, right? Like, right. Hey, we have an app now, go download it. So it's doubly, if you can't get a high uptake on that, then you've really probably not got something that's hitting a nerve with most people. So here's some more questions. How do you keep up with Apple's guidelines? Just submit and learn?
Yes. I mean, first off, like, always keep track of like news and updates that Apple is making, because they can change on a dime. Also, they apply some of their guidelines not consistently. And so, just be aware of that. Also, I think cultivating a good kind of relationship with them over time is very useful. Like, once you hit top 10, top 15 in a category, they'll usually assign you a business development person, app store partnerships, basically. And those are really useful because they will put you in touch with the right people. I had some issues around Apple sign-in, where a lot of our job is to get candidates in front of employers, which means getting their email address in front of employers. And we have a lot of back-end dependencies that require job seeker email. And Apple sign-in button kind of just like broke that completely. And so having that partnership person connecting me to their product team and their product marketing team helped me get my concerns out to them, and be able to work with them on a potential like long-term solution for it. complaining to them, go ahead and do it, but they're a huge mammoth company. Like they don't necessarily, that's not necessarily going to be a very productive use of your time, but productive, constructive criticism is definitely appreciated.
Yeah. I've had similar experiences of just actually sort of being surprised how accessible Apple was. Both for Mixpanel, like the app itself, but then of course the Mixpanel SDK is in tens of thousands of apps out there. And so on stuff related to that, and where we've had issues that the team at Apple, like the people we've talked to, I was just sort of surprised on a number of occasions, like who we were able to talk to, and they were quite
they're surprisingly accessible.
Mm-hmm.
I have found Google to be less accessible, and maybe other people have had different experiences than me, but I have found them to be less accessible, but also a little looser with their guidelines than Apple. Although that seems to be starting to change. Google found something that they did not like in our App Store description. They thought it was like a little keyword spammy, and they literally pulled the app completely out of the store, which I thought was very aggressive until we updated the description. And so that's definitely a shift I've noticed with Google recently. Crack down.
So someone's asking, do you have both iOS and Android apps? And then, what's your approach to developing those in concert with one another? If you do?
Yeah, totally. That's a great question. So yes, we have 2 native apps, iOS and Android. And typically, like, there's a few different types of projects, right? There's like the multi-platform projects that like all the different products have to get on board, right? Like for instance, with user profiles, we basically, we parse resumes that you upload into our system, and we save it into a clean profile. And, we parse out your work experience, your skills, we have you confirm all that information, and then we use that information to help with matching and all sorts of things. And like that was like all apps, all web, mobile, we all needed to support that. So in that case, like, we will work, Android and iOS will work together in tandem with each other. But oftentimes I really try to avoid having both apps work on the same project at the same time. To me, it's about learnings, right? Like if we can use the iOS team to kind of work on, learnings for this feature, and then Android learnings for that feature, then, we can swap later instead of like trying to get through those learnings together at the same time.
Interesting. Yeah.
Sorry, ambulance. All right, there we go.
Yeah, you can kind of double your experimentation throughput by doing them on the 2 different platforms.
And it's not just that, right? It's not just 2 platforms. It's also web and all our other channels. Like we really try to avoid, redundancies until a feature has reached a certain level of maturity where it's not going to have drastic changes. That's when we start doing multi-platform support for it. I've been in situations, this is another learning, where like, I was quick to jump on a feature that was getting a lot of momentum on web. And then they decided to kill the product. And like I had devs working already a few weeks on it for the apps, Mm-hmm. And I think that's where it's really valuable to have like a dedicated mobile PM, is to like, ask the right questions and get a good feel for like, okay, these are the right projects to work on. Because, if it's going to go away from web, within short order, then you just wasted time investing, your engineers on it for mobile.
Yeah, that's the worst. All right. Well, thank you, Akio. Really appreciate it. And thank you to ZipRecruiter for sponsoring every podcast I ever listened to. Thank you for everyone who joined us today and for the questions. That was fun.
Yeah.
Right.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah. Bye.